Whether you love it or hate it, it's hard to deny the original PlayStation has a literal metric ton of fun and enjoyable video games. Not so much in the department of platformers though. Don't get me wrong, I acknowledge that both the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon series originated on the system, and I'm aware of some of the more unknown platformers like the Tomba series and Klonoa Door to Phantomile. But personally, the best and most memorable and unique platformer on the system for me is Ape Escape. Released in 1999 under the title Saro Getsu in Japan, Ape Escape was the first game to require the use of the then new DualShock analog controller. It's something that's key to not only the gameplay and the control, but also just the game itself. Heck, it says it twice on the back of the box that the controller is not only mandatory, but makes the game 20 million times better apparently, so yeah, you know it's good. In fact, for the longest time, the game was sold in a bundle with a rather rare and unique DualShock controller, which is now really hard to find, even unboxed and in relatively good condition. Like I said, Ape Escape is a 3D platformer, with a fairly heavy emphasis on the collection, as was typical of games at the time. The plot is simple, to say the least. You play as Spike, or Kakeru in the Japanese version. Him and his friend Buzz, or Jake in the US version, set off to see the professor who's finished his time machine. When they get there, they find him and Katie, or Natalie in the US version, or Natsumi in the Japanese version, tied up, captured by some monkeys. One of the monkeys presses a button, people float in the air, and both Spike and Jake, or Buzz or whatever, are hurled through time and space. But instead of being destroyed by the sheer magnitude of what just happened, Spike ends up in a place called the Time Station, and now he's charged with the task of visiting various eras in time, and capturing the monkeys, attempting to both destabilize the space-time continuum and erase humanity from the face of time itself. So yeah, the plot's execution is simple, but if you actually thought about it, it would be a pretty interesting and maybe even deep plot. But this is a platformer, and like a fighting game, the core of the game isn't the story, it's the gameplay. And the gameplay in Ape Escape, in my opinion, is fantastic. Like I said, you run around and collect monkeys, but the way you do it is just executed so well. Since it was the first game to use the analog controller, it uses almost every aspect of it. Obviously, you use the left stick to move. This isn't Gun Griffin Blaze after all. And use the right stick to use all of your items. The time net, the stun rod, the dash shoot, the RC car, the monkey radar, everything. And it all works really well. It doesn't feel awkward or forced. You can tell that they really took time in developing it and making sure that everything worked properly. Something that obviously was lost due to both technical limitations and a change in team in the PSP remake, but I will talk about that some other time. And finally, the least important part of any video game in my opinion, the presentation. The game looks good for a 1999 PlayStation platformer. Okay, the textures look a bit pixelated and the character models can be really stupid at times, but it's more than 10 years old. Really, what are you gonna do? Nothing. The game looks perfectly fine for its age, and hey, I like to play games like Virtual On, and that looks like if you were playing Star Fox on a Game Gear blindfolded. I really don't care about the way a game looks. The way a game sounds, on the other hand, is a very different story. Ape Escape, for me, personally, has one of the most memorable soundtracks of any game I've ever played in my entire life. It's probably just below Psychic Force. It's so good. The only way I can describe it really is drum and bass, but not in the crappy sense of drum and bass. I mean, you know, actual drum and bass. Oh, and that intro theme, it's so memorable. I love it so much. I love all the music in the game. It all sounds really damn good. You should definitely find the soundtrack. I'm pretty sure they actually released it on disc in Japan. So you know what that means. Download it from the internet, because why would you pay for music in this day and age, let alone video game music? And while we're on the subject of sound, I probably should mention that both PAL territories and America have different English dubs. Two different teams of voice actors reading the same script. I have no idea why, and really all it does is serve to create moaning and complaining on internet forums as to which version has the best English localization, but I don't care. I mean, I can understand name changes between the two, but voice actor changes? Really? I don't know, and I really don't care that much, because Ape Escape isn't about that. It's about the platforming, the capturing the monkeys, and it works perfectly fine. It's a great game. Please pick it up. Pick up the original PlayStation version though. Just do not even consider buying the PSP version. It's pretty bad, and it just loses the feeling of being an Ape Escape game. It loses its soul almost. It's kind of bad. I'm really that passionate about this game. I love it so much. It's probably my second favorite PlayStation game, right behind Psychic Force. Psychic Force.
Monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic, monkey magic.